Hey there, I'm Lance and I'm a gamer.
And I'm Sam and I'm a non-gamer.
And we are Love to Hate, where we help gamers find great games to play with non-gamers.
And today we're taking a look at New Kingdom Sowers by New Kingdom Games.
New Kingdom Sowers is a game that is coming to crowdfunding here in the near future, so make sure to check out the campaign link down below in the description of this video after you've watched it. Now, New Kingdom Sowers is the second game from New Kingdom Gaming. They came out with New Kingdom Gardeners, which you can see right back here, and we were lucky enough to get a copy of their next game, New Kingdom Sowers. And so in this video, we're going to show you a little bit about this one and what it has to offer. We do want to thank the people over at New Kingdom Gaming for sponsoring this video. With this particular game, you are going to play either solo by yourself or with another person, as this is a 1 to 2 player game. And this all takes place around Priscilla and Aquila from the Bible. It also takes place with the parable about the seeds being sown on the different soil paths that you find in the Gospels of Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. And what you're going to be doing in this particular game is you're going to have a hand of cards, and you're trying to get your black seed cards into the right spot on the board in ascending order, numbers 1 through 10. It's a bit of an abstract game. I'll explain to you how it works down below. But if you want a full rules teach how to play video, we do have a video on that, as well as a 2-player playthrough video. And you can check out those videos by hitting the I in the top right corner. But right now, we're going to go down to the table. I'll give you the quick, brief overview, and then we'll come back and share our thoughts on this game. All right, I've got New Kingdom Sowers out on the table. Let me show you how this game is going to work. I do want to make sure you understand that everything you see here is prototype, so the final artwork components, maybe even some of the rules, might be changed once it's released from crowdfunding. That being said, what you have here with this game, you do have a central board here. It's fairly small, but it does fold, as you can see. And you have 2 different decks. You've got a Priscilla deck and Aquila. Now, each of these decks are going to be identical. You've got 10 yellow seed cards that are going to be numbered 1 through 10, and 10 black seed cards numbered 1 through 10. You also have 2 player aids. Now with this game, the theme is it's taking after the biblical parable of Jesus about the 4 different types of soils, or 4 different types of people, and whether or not they're ready to receive the gospel. The good soil being those who receive it and take it in, and the other soils being those who don't receive the gospel. Now in this game, what you'll be trying to do is trying to get your black seed cards down here in the good soil in the particular order 1 through 10. And if you're the player to do that first, you win the game. Now you can play this game in solo mode, and I will cover those rules at the end of this portion of the video, so hang tight on that. Now, on your turn, you will start with 4 cards in your hand at the beginning of the game, but every turn will start with you drawing 1 card. So I've got 4 cards here, and I'm going to draw 1 more card into my hand. Now, with the cards that you have available to you, you are to play 1 card to one of the 4 spots on the board, but each spot can only take a certain type of card. The first we'll cover is the path, which is up here at the top, and as you can see, it is outlined in yellow, so only yellow cards can be played there. If you play a card there, it doesn't matter what the number is, but what you get to do is you get to draw 1 more card from your deck, and then you get to draw the top card from the rocky soil, or any card that you've played into your thorny soil pile. You don't draw from your opponent's pile, your pile. That would be the end of your turn, and then you would discard whatever cards you have, yellow cards, down to 7. The cards you discard are out of the game, you don't get them back, but as long as you have 7 or fewer, you're okay. Then it would be the other player's turn. Let's cover what some of the other types of spots on the board are going to be. The rocky soil, again, has to be a yellow card, and whatever card you play here has to be lower than whatever card was on top of the pile previously. If there's not a card there, then any card can be played there. But if there is a card there, you have to play lower than that card. When you play a card there, you're going to get to draw 2 cards from your deck, and then 1 card out of all the cards in your hand has to be played in one of the other 3 spots. When you play that second card, you get to do the action of the spot that you played in. So the rocky soil is going to let you effectively take 2 actions, the rocky soil itself and then one of the other 3 spots. Let's cover what the thorny soil does. Now, the thorny soil has to be played with a black card. As you can see, it has the black outline. And so taking a look at all the black seed cards that I have here, I probably would want to play a high number because whatever cards you play into the thorny soil are going to stay there until you take a path action to then be able to take that card back into your hand. So you're trying to get rid of cards out of your hand that aren't really going to help you at that particular time in the game, because we'll come to the good soil now, because the good soil is the last option that you could do on your turn, and it has to be the correct order. When you have nothing down here, the very first card that you play has to be the 1. And so playing that 1 in there, now I'm good to go. The next card I play would have to be the 2. Now, I do have 1, 2, and 3 in my hand at this particular point, and the good thing about the good soil is that you can play consecutive numbers all at once. So I could play all 3 of those cards at the same time, and now I've got 3 cards in here. And as you can see, this is also the score tracker with the game because I'm 3 points ahead of the other player. Now, whoever is able to play all 10 cards down here first is going to effectively win the game. And that's all there is to this game. Again, you're drawing a card at the beginning of your turn, playing a card, taking the action. If you play in the rocky soil, you get a second action effectively, and then you have to discard any yellow cards that you have in your hand until you have 7 cards. Now, if your deck runs out and you haven't completed the goal of getting all 10 black cards down here in the correct order, then you lose the game. There's no way for you to win. Another way that you can immediately lose the game is if you have no available option for you with whatever cards you have in your hand. And that can happen. Here's a good example. Let's say I have this 1 black 10 card in my hand, and that's the only card that I have. The only spot that I can play it to is the thorny soil because I can't play the 10 card into the good soil until I've got all the previous 9 black cards right here. So the only option I have is to play into the thorny soil. When you play into the thorny soil, I don't think I covered this, you actually draw 3 cards off the top of your deck, and then you have to take 4 cards from your hand and arrange them in whatever order you want, either on top of your deck or on the bottom of your deck. And if you don't have 4 cards to do, because again, if the 10 was the only card I had, I now have no cards because I'm drawing these cards off the top of the deck, I cannot fulfill the fulfillments of that action. And when you can't do the full action, you can't do the action at all. And if that's the case, you lose the game. So, in other words, the way you win is to get your black 10 cards in the correct order down here. The way you lose the game is if somebody completes that before you, or you run out of cards, or if you don't have a valid action on your turn. Now that's the rules for the base game when you're playing against another person, but how it works when you're playing against the game itself, you'll take the other deck of cards that you're not using, you'll separate the black and yellow cards from each other and shuffle the yellow cards, the black cards you will put in the specific order of 1 through 10, face up with the 1 on top. And when it's the opponent's turn, the AI in other words, you will take the top black card and place it down here because they're going to get 1 good soil black card every time. So the game is only going to last 10 rounds. And then you'll flip the top card of the yellow card deck and play it wherever it needs to go. If it can go into the rocky soil, it'll do that. Otherwise, it will go into the path. And it's effectively just clogging up this top part of the board and making life a little bit more difficult for you. But effectively, it is a time management game, as you only have 10 rounds to be able to try and complete the good soil objective down here. And if you're able to do so, then you win the game. Now, that's what you got here with New Kingdom Sowers. Let's go back up top and share our thoughts on this one. And we're back, and now we're going to share our thoughts on New Kingdom Sowers from a gamer and non-gamer's perspective. So Sam, let me ask you about this game because it is a 2-player kind of head-to-head game, but it's not so much like a dueler or a battler or something along those lines. This is more along a hand management.
It's strategic.
Strategic kind of...
In your own way,
right.
Not against the other person.
Exactly, right, yeah. And so what was your experience like with this game?
I thought it was good. I will say, it is based on biblical stories, but you can easily play the games not knowing those stories or anything like that. It can be played solely just as it is without knowing that. But I think it is a good teaching tool for kids too.
For sure.
But no, I was frustrated with myself because I do like strategy. And this is one of those games where you just it was almost like 2 steps in advance.
Okay.
And at the end, I just couldn't get that to work out for me. I kept trying it and it just wasn't working, and Lance ultimately won. But it is I think a little bit of a heart-pounding game. Like it is strategic, and you know that person. You can see their cards as they're getting them in a row, and so you're like, okay, I need to do it.
I got to do something quick.
And I think sometimes that adrenaline causes me to make bad choices.
Well, so the thing that I found so interesting about with this game is that it seems like it would be such an easy game to figure out, if that makes sense, right? Because you only have 4 options, and really, depending on what card you're going to be playing, you only have 2 options, right? Because each card can only be played in 2 different spots. And so it doesn't seem like there would be a whole lot to have to consider with this game. But what I've discovered with it is that there's several pitfalls that you can fall into, right? Like one game in which I was playing where I wanted to make a move where you're playing it on the thorny soil and you're drawing 3 cards, but then you got to put 4 cards back in the deck. But if that's your last card that you're playing and you're only getting 3 back, you don't have 4 cards to play, so you're stuck and you can't do that move. And if you can't do the move, you lose instantly. And there's those pitfalls built into the game, and I love that aspect because it's something like you can be moving and trucking along and thinking like you're doing so real good, and then all of a sudden you realize, oh, I'm stuck, and boom, you've lost. Yeah. And so to me, that's a lot of fun because you don't ever want to get too cocky with this game, right? Like you don't want to ever feel like, oh, I've got this, I'm gonna beat her, I know what I'm doing, and then before you know it, you've lost. So for me, that was a really fun experience. But for you, Sam, you mentioned that you do have to kind of think maybe 1 or 2 steps ahead.
And I think it was more, and this is based on the first time we played it, that it just took a little bit to get into it. You kind of got the groove, but then you're having more of the black seed cards in your hand, and that thought process of, okay, well, I don't want to play one out here. I need to play it. You
want to be efficient with that.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I was throwing all my other cards, not away, but using them. Yeah. And then all I had was black seed cards in my hand, but I didn't want to use them. And so that I didn't really
It is a much trickier game than what meets
at the beginning I was like, this is going to be pretty easy. And at the end I was like, I can't do this.
It's definitely one you have to play a few times to really start to feel like, okay, I think I maybe have a good grasp on it. Not that it's a complicated game, because it's not at all. It's just the intricacies with it have a lot of...
I think it's a good start, and not even start, it's a good strategy game for non-gamers because it is pretty quick. You're only playing with one other person, which I think is always a good starting point for non-gamers.
Yeah.
And it's a very simple setup. So I think it just gives non-gamers a good starting point in some of that higher strategy games.
Yeah, the setup for this game is nothing, right? Like 30 seconds for setup. Yeah. Which means it's going to get to the table quite a bit, quite easily. So now, speaking from a solo standpoint, I did play this game in solo mode. Sam, you did not. She does not solo game.
Never do that.
But I can tell you here with the solo game that it is very challenging as well. It feels quite a bit like a multiplayer game. And the way the solo works, just again, watch that rules overview. But it's like a countdown clock. You only have 10 rounds to try and win this game because your opponent's going to be playing 1 black card every time, as well as kind of shaking up the board with those yellow cards too. And so you really need to be efficient in the solo mode, knowing you've only got 10 turns to work with. Yeah. And that's a lot of fun. It makes for a really challenging game, but you can win it. It is possible to win this one. So lots to like here about New Kingdom Sowers. It's a great little card game. Comes with a board too, so I guess technically it's not just a card game, but great little game, easy little tiny package. You can take this just about anywhere. So lots to like from it. Again, check out the link down below in the description of this video to get more details on the campaign page. And while you're there, leave us some comments.
Make sure to like and subscribe and push that bell button so you get notifications of all our new content.
I'm Lance.
I'm Sam.
And we are Love to Hate, where we try to bridge the gap between gamers and non-gamers. We'll catch you next time.